Hello, hello, Wombly here, and this time we are trying an ornate and challenging multicolor print on the Snapmaker U1, and it's Christmas in September because today's model comes from a couple years ago, back around Christmas time, that was originally inspired by this really pretty twisted light bulb design from another Snapmaker community member. A link for that's in the description, and I just thought that's really a beautiful and nice fast Vase-Mode print, very cool. But that had gotten me thinking. I wanted to make something a little bit more ornate at the time, and something that would leverage an IDEX printer, a multi-tool printer. And after fumbling around in Fusion, I came up with this. So if you want to follow along, I actually finally shared this model on Printables, so you can try slicing it yourself. Linking down below, of course. Here, I'm going to show my test of this on the U1, because I will say, it took some tries doing this the first time on the J1. I will say this time was even easier, but of course we benefit from hindsight. So sort of the same idea as the other bulb, but you can see this one is like one light embracing a second. Like a little Christmas hug, if you will. If you look at the top, it's got this little flat, so that's a good base to print from. And it has this easily printable loop embedded in it so that you can feed in a little 3mm wide ribbon to hang it up with a bow. And while the base part is easy to print, the rest is not. So this one I wanted to try because it does require really clean retraction to not just turn into a mess, and a little bit of finesse. I do like to also do this one in silk PLA, which I haven't gotten to try yet. So this print for the U1 does benefit from our learning a couple years ago. And yeah, I did not use the default slicer settings. I'm going to show you all that, and we'll see how the U1 fares with it. Oh, but did you think we were skipping this part? Ha, no. Usual disclaimers. I am an unpaid Snapmaker U1 beta tester from the community. We are looking at pre-production hardware and software, so please bear that in mind. Their final product and the print results may vary. This video is not buying advice, and there's more on that in this video. Okay, slicer time. And now we're in Snapmaker OrcaSlicer beta, starting off by importing the two STL files from the file menu at the same time. You don't get to see my file system. Here it'll ask if we want to make this one object of multiple parts, and to that we say yes, because that'll bring them in as one cleanly aligned group of objects. So I just say yes here, and over, now we see our ornament, and over on the left we are going to assign colors from the object menu, not the global settings, but the object menu. So I right-click and choose for the group of two to be green by right-clicking and then choosing filament from the pop-up. Then I go back on the inner object until I want that one to be red, and that's it. We assigned colors for our multi-part model. This is why we love multi-part models, and we need more of them. Very nice. Now for finesse, let's slice this and have a look at a couple of speed settings that are already set. Now let's pull the preview down a little bit before it finishes printing, and you can see here at the top that it's not connected. It won't be connected, right? So this whole long skinny piece is just a spring that's going to be dragged back and forth as the nozzle moves over it. And likewise, if you go to this inner one, you can also see that, like same problem. It's just not connected at first, and this is why this is a little challenging. All of these little tines kind of act like little springs that are going to want to wiggle around, and this can be a real problem. Now, this brings us to the challenge for this print, and I knew it would be a little bit tricky, but it brings us to a bonus print. So I'm going to stop for a second here because MJ on YouTube had asked this on the Ocarina question, which I understand from Google Translate to mean he'd like to see a 5mm diameter rod over the full built, just straight up, 270mm on the build plate. We hopefully can see why this is a bad idea, and I will say, at first I'm like, that's just cruel. So first of all, I started with a 10mm pipe, and I sliced that in Vase-Mode. And here is what the 10mm pipe looked like as it was just finishing the last few layers on the Snapmaker U1. And I'm a little surprised, it's actually doing pretty well. I thought even this might be a little bit of a mess, but it does slow down, as you saw there, due to minimum layer time, which we'll talk about maybe in a second. But compared to alongside a centimeter scale ruler, so you can really see nothing up my sleeves or anything, it actually turned out very smooth pretty much all the way to the end. And it couldn't feel anything. It might wobble a little bit. And to really exaggerate this, again, this isn't really a fault of the printer, but if we want to see something more like the ornament, here's a really exaggerated example is the 5mm MJ requested. Tall, skinny things get wobbly. So it's hard to stack the layers when the part's moving around, and that is what we need to be careful with when we're printing this kind of spirally, springy ornament. Looking at the speed now, you can choose speed as the color scheme, and up here you see it's only 30 millimeters per second or so at the top. The reason for that is in the material settings, the default minimum layer time is 5 seconds, so it automatically slows down if there's not much left to print, and that gives those layers time to cool. You see the body, the outer walls are slower. That is something I change. So you can see small perimeters here on the left. I have set to 80 millimeters per second if a perimeter is less than 5 millimeters. That's just a setting I like in case little tiny features are being printed, and that actually captures most of the body here. So that's why this print is a little slower. But inside, look in that inner ornament, the inner spiral, because there are other things happening in that layer, it doesn't slow down for that. And so again, it's going to get springy before it connects. To enforce a speed limit, we have something in OrcaSlicer called modifier object. So if I select the body and click add modifier, choose cone, this will create this imaginary cone on the build plate you see as kind of a shadow. And if whatever I place inside this thing will let me change the settings. So to start with, I'm just trying to create a little object around the tip of that inner spiral. I know a little bit about what size it should be, and so we'll get it centered by choosing 0, 0 for X, and for positioning it vertically, I just grab the tip of the Z arrow and drag it up to cover that tip. All right, so what does this buy us? Well, now this generic cone shape, which you can see kind of nicely covers, roughly the top 20% where it's starting to get springy. In the object menu, I can now select that generic cone. And I was going by memory. I thought I was doing what I did in the past. Mention that in a second. And I'm being very conservative. I don't know how fast the U1 can do this, but I had thought that I did this at about 30 millimeters per second for the walls. So I did 30, 30, 30 for the walls. And I said, we'll slow down a little bit for the infill at 50 millimeters per second. But then I went back and actually looked at Cura, which is how I sliced this for the J1, because I did one also. I was making this clip to show for people who are slicing this for other printers. You can also do modifier cubes in Cura. You have a little more flexibility, I think, with the shapes in Orca and other slicers. But here you can see I had put a cube in here. And on the left then, there is the modifier mesh, so I can go through and change the settings. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I had actually gone much slower on the J1. I went down to 10 millimeters per second, which, okay, I guess we'll find out how this turns out on the U1 going a little faster. So hopping back over to OrcaSlicer, next I do want to add another cone, so here I'm doing it on fast forward, dropping basically the same shape because I want the outer one to be the same because we're going to duplicate this in a second, and I want to make sure I keep control of that speed. Same deal, 30, 30, 30, 50, 50, 50, and now we have enclosed both the inner and outer, so again, strict control over the speeds at the tops there. Okay, cool. So next we're going to slice again and see how that shook out. I'm going to slice and change the color scheme back to looking at speed. And we do see, yeah, inner and outer both will slow down as it starts to get kind of springy. So that's really nice, both inner and outer. Next, I want to also duplicate this, because actually I was going to print a few of these for some aunts and uncles in Alaska and California that didn't get one in 2023. And so here you see a nice preview. And then to duplicate this, I just want to make sure I choose the entire group in either in the object menu here. You have to go back to the Prepare tab. Just make sure the whole object collection is chosen, and I hit Clone. And I'll make 2 more copies of that and slice it again just to make sure that we really did duplicate all of our stuff, including our speed modifiers. And yeah, looks good. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And now, just because I know everybody's curious, we'll actually show sending the print off to while we're here. Why not? Please don't hate me, Snapmaker, but it's pretty slick. So I hit print. I'm going to change this file to ornaments.gcode instead of that, and upload and print. This one didn't match automatically, but I do have green and red loaded into tools 3 and 4, and I do want to record a time lapse. And then I go ahead and hit send. Take a moment to connect, and then we'll see the file upload. And again, all of this is pre-production, so the stuff you're seeing here as far as the printer integration might change, but here's where we're at so far. If I click OK, it'll take me back over to the device tab in OrcaSlicer, and I can see I have printer controls, filament control, I even have my little camera. Here we'll start seeing it move to do the homing. But yeah, pretty nice interface already. This is good stuff. And with that, we're off to the races. So here we see it rising up from the build plate and swooping spirals. This one's pretty satisfying. As we get up here, I'll actually pause to show you guys this is real time now. You can see if you look really closely that these little green ones, even with it slowing down when it's printing, you can still see them bouncing around a little bit, and it can torque and spring and do terrible things. But yeah, this is again why I slow down. But we finish, no problems. All right, here we are. Ooh. I was being a little paranoid because I know from printing this in the past, it can get a little torquey, making all the little doing all the Z-hops. So I did use a bit of Magigoo. Snapmaker also sells bed adhesive like this. It's really good stuff. It washes off with a little bit of dish soap. We're gonna have a little of that on there. And here's our wipe tower, which partially snapped off. We'll check that out later. Let's see what we got. Pops off easy. So, wow. Yeah, these are pretty good. So you can see I did do a brim. Let's see if that brim comes off. I did just a 50 micron gap there. And yeah, no problems removing that. You can see there's a thin film of Magigoo on the bottom, which sometimes just peels off like a skin, like that. There we go. That is, if I can get it to focus, maybe I'll see if I can't clean that up a bit, but that's a very nice result. This does have, actually, let me get a piece of ribbon. Now when you're doing a ribbon for this one, it does tend to get caught on the little layers, so I do use tweezers to go and get through that little loop. But no big deal, tie it off nicely, and we're all done. Ain't she purty? And then all that's left for us to do is ship these off so they can get hung up on the tree this year, and yeah. So my thoughts for this one, I do have to say, this was pretty enjoyable to do with OrcaSlicer. Trying to print something, again, this delicate and really zero in on the speed controls the way we did with the custom modifier shapes, I found that really easy to do in OrcaSlicer, as we saw at great length. So points for that, and yeah, the results just came out at least every bit as clean as I was able to get before with not much fuss, although again, we did benefit from hindsight a little bit there. Yeah. Now you don't have to slice this for a tool changer, so let's take a look at the comparison. Here, Snapmaker U1, I sliced this very conservatively, so those speed modifiers and stuff to take care of the delicate parts. And it was just under 4 hours with 43 grams of filament. Using the same modifiers, including little cones and stuff, I do get just under 10 hours with 83 grams of filament on a single nozzle filament changer type printer. So, you know, that's doable. There's an extra 34 grams in purge and a little bit bigger of a wipe tower. So yeah, more than double the time and about double the filament. Totally doable if you'd like to give it a go. Before we go, because in my last video we looked at 6-color printing by adding a mid-print pause to change out 2 spools, but people wanted to see the pause screen, which, you know what, alright, fair enough. So I do already have a long video showing how the auto-loading and unloading of filament works, because I think that's very cool, but let's do a simple print with a pause in it so that you guys can see what happens on the screen. Okay, so to make up for it, I'm just printing a little cylinder in Vase-Mode, and we should be coming up on a pause. Whoa! And there you go. This is what a pause looks like. I can hit play, and I'm gonna swap both of these spools to get a kind of idea what this looks like. If I go back to the home screen, I have access to a lot of stuff here. I'm going to unload. I'm going to choose to unload both spools, and I'm going to swap them. So now I'm not going to show all of this again, so I've cut this up a little for time, but I have shown previously, once you start unloading, Toaster here does the hard work of de-extruding it from the two extruders for you. He doesn't help you with physically removing the spools from the holder. Unfortunately, you have to do that part yourself. But yeah, it'll heat up the nozzles, go through them sequentially, unloading whichever ones you asked it to. And then, yeah, so you can see green is on top right now. So Toaster unloaded them, I swapped the spools out, so it took about 2 minutes to unload. It took me about a minute to just flip the two spools around. And then I did use the automatic loading, which again, I'm not showing that. That's in the other videos. But you can see now red is on top and green is on the bottom. Again, just simulating what we had in the last video a little bit. And this is just a single color print I was doing with the third extruder. So you see as I back out to the main menu and get back to my print, I can push play. And it picks back up extruder 3 to continue printing. However, again, we have now put red filament into extruder 3, so my green is going to start turning red. I think that's what I'm wagging my finger about here. And then, yeah, Toaster carries on. So it gives it a little scrubby scrub, and back to work. Because I know someone is going to ask, this is what it looks like when you resume a single-walled cylinder print. It's smooth to the touch. If it wasn't two colors, I wouldn't know that we paused the printer. Yeah, very clean other than me ripping it off the build plate when it was done. Nice. Whew, okay, well, I'm winded just from talking, and you're probably asleep. Yeah, so that's the Christmas ornament. Again, that model is up on printables. If you do come up with like different ways to slice it or ideas, tips to slice it, maybe faster, cleaner, etc., please feel free to post your makes, leave some comments. I'll put this up on the Snapmaker forum too, especially again also for my fellow IDEX friends if you guys want to try it out this year. That said, I might be shifting gears for the next video. Okay. Pun not intended, but I'll take it. Yeah, so until then, again, thank you to Snapmaker. This has been a really fun test drive. And to everybody else, thanks for watching.